I think anyone who has travelled the world will tell you it is one of the greatest things in life that you can do. You get to meet wonderful people, you get to see amazing places, but also it changes you as a person, it gives you greater and larger perspectives on life. But at the same time, I think also if you've travelled the world and you return home to your home country, there is a sense then that maybe you feel that you don't fit in anymore because you have different perspectives now. So in this video, I want to share about my experience of travelling around the world, and this video is going to be one of my longer videos, but I hope you're able to stay till the end because I think there'll be a lot of stuff that you can relate to. So I come from South Wales in the United Kingdom, and I would describe my community as a very small town, a lot of social and economic depression, especially when the mines shut down in the 1980s, unemployment, drug abuse, and I think a lot of our local councils don't go the extra mile to help their people. It is very much to shove people in this rough area, put people in this rough area. But if there is one thing I am definitely used to living over here in Wales is shops closing down, debunked buildings. Some buildings have been closed down ever since I've been a kid. It certainly doesn't lift your spirits socially. We're very isolated, we're very insular in the sense of everyone knows everyone's business, everyone knows the gossip. That's amplified even more now through social media. Word can get round very quickly about positive things or negative things that have happened in the community. So my adventures of travelling started in 2013 when I met my now wife. She's from the Bay Area in California, in Fremont, close to San Francisco. And so I went to America for the first time in 2013, and it was really, really amazing. I never thought I would have the chance to go to America. I'm just going to skip ahead here in terms of my timeline. I've been to America, I think, 5 times now, mostly in the West area in Los Angeles, San Francisco area. But my sister-in-law lives in Portland, Oregon, and my father-in-law lives near Sequim in Washington State. But because I'm married to an American, our daughter is half British, half American, and I sort of feel like I have maybe not a better perspective than anyone else, but maybe a unique perspective in the sense that I do have my foot in the door in terms of understanding America a little bit, and that America will always be a big part of my life because we go there a lot of time to visit family. And there is that comparison of the United Kingdom and America, and some of the questions that I get asked, the healthcare system, so coming over here from a socialized medicine point of view with the NHS, and then going over to America where it's more of a private sector under insurances. Is one better than the other if I'm favouring one more than the other? Well, thankfully I've never become ill in America. I've never had to use the hospital or the doctors over there. So from my experience over here, I know that prescription is free in Wales, and if you have a emergency situation, you can go to a hospital. You might be waiting a very long time and staff is short, but at least you would get the care that you would need. Now in America, from what I've heard from some of my family, it is very much a case of, does your insurance cover the illness or the condition that you have? I know one family member I've got, the insurance wouldn't even cover it, so how he ended up getting well in the end or fixing the problem, I don't know. I know that if you have a decent job and a higher paying job, you're likely to be okay under the insurance systems, but also then there are those who have absolutely nothing. And from my understanding of Obamacare when it was in place, I think Trump is trying to get rid of it or wanting to get rid of it. Obamacare was set in place for those people who had absolutely nothing and that they could get some kind of medical help given to them. I've also heard from family members in the United Kingdom a lot of criticism on the NHS, that waiting times are horrific. But at the same time, I've also heard from family members in America that waiting times are just as horrific. I know the NHS is in shambles, but I do think the socialized medicine method is the better way, because my wife has told me stories where she went into A&E, cut her finger, had to have all these stitches, cost hundreds of dollars, and if you go to A&E, they will demand your money, hundreds, thousands of dollars, before they even touch you to do a medical procedure. At least over here in the UK, if you have asthma, like my wife, she can just get a pump free on a prescription and she's guaranteed to have the medical care that she needs. And I think I would rather live with that than the American system. I even know family members in the UK at the moment who have decided to pay private because the waiting time is hardly anything, but obviously a lot of money when you pay privately. So that's the healthcare. Other questions I get about America is Donald Trump sometimes. People in the UK, I find, either love him or hate him. There's not much in the middle. Perhaps one of the biggest questions we get asked is, would you ever consider moving over there? Or even, why are you living here in the UK? But this is a good example of someone feeling like they don't fit. My wife has always told me that she's always been like a British person in an American body. But no, we're perfectly happy here in the UK.
I think one of the big reasons is gun control. There are far too many shootings. But it is interesting how the right to arms is very popular over here, and a lot of British people are wanting that system.
But that's America. I would hope to see more of the country one day. I would love to go to New York and parts of Colorado and the Rocky Mountains. That would be my dream. Going back then to 2014, my wife and I were working with an international theatre company at the time, and that enabled us to do drama all around the world. In 2014, I was sent to Sweden and Denmark, and we performed in different places like schools, churches, nursing homes, military bases. Some of the culture shocks maybe I had in Sweden was, first of all, the school system. There's no school uniform over there, which was sort of alien to me coming from the UK where it's all uniform. And also, whereas we use terms like Miss, Sir, Mr, Ma'am over here, there in Sweden it was very much like, oh, John, oh, Steve, that kind of thing. And also there's no discipline in Sweden. They let the kids do whatever they want, and they figure that a lack of telling off and a lack of discipline would actually be better off for the students in the long run. Whether that's true, I don't know. I think it's fair to say that discipline is drilled into us too much in the UK, if I'm perfectly honest. The other thing that was interesting about Sweden is that the English level is very high compared to other places like France or Germany. I think the reason for that, from what people told me, is that American and British television is not dubbed over there. It's in the English language, but then they put the subtitles of either Swedish or Danish at the bottom. So if children are used to seeing English spoken television, it would be quite natural for them to have a good English level from a very early age.
Jag heter Dale, jag kommer från Wales. Jag kan inte prata svenska.
After that tour, I came back home in July, then my wife and I got married, and then we had our honeymoon in Venice, and I'd never been to Italy before, and Venice, it was such a beautiful place, a very expensive place, but it was wonderful to be able to see that. Right away then, we went to Germany, Poland, and the Czech Republic. Now, Germany is an amazing place, and I learned a lot from being there. Again, some of the culture shocks would be that there's no school uniform in Germany. The English level can be lower in some areas, and so it would be necessary for us to learn the plays in that language, especially German. I was quite challenged in having to pick up German plays and learn them in a very short period of time. I found also in Germany that in terms of history, there is a lot of memorials remembering those who died in World War I. But there were not many memorials in regards to those who died in World War II. That it was still quite a sore subject to bring up. But I know the government in Germany is trying their best to have this kind of transparency where they want to talk about these things openly and say, how can we learn from history, and that the more dialogue we can have about these things, the better we will be. So that was good to know from a historical perspective.
Ich bin Dale, ich komme aus Großbritannien. Ich kann sprechen ein bisschen Deutsch. Ich habe Deutschland besucht in Saarbrücken, Berlin, Hamburg, Kiel or Frankfurt.
Poland, again, was a beautiful country. There was a lot of coal fires still being used in Poland, so the sky was often grey, I found. I was in Krakow and Wrocław and St. John the Baptist Cathedral. I even used this on my first album cover. Also, we discovered Polish people love feeding you. Czech Republic was a very short time. I think we had 5 days in Prague, and it was beautiful to see St. Charles's Bridge and the clocks in Prague. A very special place. Some of the things I learned about Prague was that it is one of the biggest sex trafficking places in the world, and something that did shock me was one of the local brothels is above the police station, and the police were totally fine with that because it was part of bringing in the money. Well, then we had a really big transition in 2015, and we went down under and lived in Australia for 2.5 years and went to New Zealand 3 times. Now, Australia had always been close to my heart because, first of all, I went out for a holiday out there in 2004, but also my grandparents actually moved out there in the 60s. Now, it was nice in one way because we were in an English-speaking country, and I didn't have many English plays in my repertoire. I've been in a place that has British colonisation. There are a lot of things you could identify that were similar to the UK. Obviously names that had come over, names like Cardiff and Newport and things like that, that's in Wales. And I found the Australian people so wonderful. There was very much a going the extra mile for you. When we would have mechanical problems, car breaking down, they would be right there for us. They would really go above and beyond. And coming from Wales, I found the Australians absolutely loved me. Even if we had smashed them in rugby or cricket, I could joke about that. And there was just something about the Welsh they just absolutely love. Lots of big connections there. I did struggle with the heat and all the poisonous bugs and snakes, I've got to admit. There's that funny video, come to Australia, you might accidentally get killed. Yay, that was my theme song for a long time. And so I struggled with Australia in that regard. But going over to New Zealand, I think has been my favourite place of all time. New Zealand is 2 islands, south and north, and both islands are quite unique, actually. They are quite different from each other. There is kind of like that, do you prefer the South or the North Island? Obviously, Lord of the Rings is a huge cultural thing in New Zealand. There is a lot of publicity about the Lord of the Rings. We did go to see Hobbiton, which was the place they used for the filming, and they've kept the place open as a tourist attraction, and actually it's a working farm now. They've kept it open as a running place. Went to Weta Workshop, which is Peter Jackson's filming studio. Obviously they suffer with earthquakes a lot over there. I experienced my first earthquake, and that was like a huge magnitude of like 7.5. So to experience my first one was quite something, and it was quite a big one. It actually moved the island a few meters on the map. We had to change our itinerary because of that. And in Christchurch, for example, a lot of people describe it as like something that looks like a war zone because buildings are just demolished. In fact, for a lot of churches, a lot of these beautiful architecture buildings, a lot of the buildings are condemned because they're not earthquake safe. So it would be quite common for a faith community to gather in a school hall, and we would often perform in those kind of areas. There's a very healthy relationship between the Maori people and the white Europeans in New Zealand, whereas in Australia I found there was still quite a bit of friction between the Australian Aboriginals and the white Europeans. You had to sort of get your foot in the door to get a starting place, but once your foot was in the door, they could develop relationships with you, and there was a lot of divide between rich and poor. And of course in Australia, your more natural disasters is fires and flooding. I did see a lot of flooding in Australia. Sadly I never got to Perth, and sadly never got to Ayers Rock, Northern Territory or Tasmania. We were mainly in the Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria parts of the country. Well, around 2017, road life and travel wasn't quite working for us, and we really wanted to start a family. And then we had to come home and we had to live in Germany again for a while waiting on my wife's visa. While we were waiting for Naomi's visa in Germany, I also went to France and the Netherlands, and again, 2 wonderful places to visit. I could probably share a lot about immigration here in this video because I have learned a lot. I think coming back now to the UK, and I hear a lot of anti-immigration policies amongst the population. I don't want to say that they're naive or that they're correct or incorrect, but I don't think they have a full perspective. There's quite a limited perspective, and that our experience of getting into countries has been quite difficult, and you hear of stories of people getting in no problem. And I know there might be some truth to that, but we have found immigration overall very difficult and very expensive. And even the same for me to get a green card to go into America would be just as hard. But my wife has lived in the UK for 10 years and has still not got a settlement visa. She's been working under the religious worker visas, and they only last for 5 years, and then you have to pay a few more thousand to get it for another 5 years. And then because we left the country and then came back, we had to start that process all over again. So it's quite an unfair system, I think, and I wish there could be a way they could look at each individual case, but their job is to keep you out, basically, and they're not going to give you that extra time that you deserve. So coming back to Wales now, some of the things I wanted to really do is that I wanted to learn our native language and be able to speak Welsh.
Siwmai, Deila dwi. Dwi'n dod o Pontypool yn Cymru. Dwi'n hoffi siarad Cymraeg. Dwi'n wedi bod dysgu Cymraeg nawr 7 mlynedd.
There's quite a anti-speaking Welsh movement in Wales, believe it or not. Our own Welsh people hate Welsh or think it's a pointless language. And I see this heated debate sometimes between those who are pro and pushing the language and those who are against it. But because I fell in love with languages, German and French, and Swedish, I really wanted to get Welsh under my belt. I think this has changed me and it's made me a better person because I've seen how beautiful this world is.
So I would say the best way to learn a language is to go straight into the deep end and just immerse yourself into it. Do not worry about how silly you think you may look, what other people may think of you. Be doing.
It's given me encouragement and motivation for this YouTube channel. I'll link a video in the description where I have made a film that was in Welsh. It's only 2 minutes long, have a look at that. I've written a longer Welsh film which will be made next year, and I'm really excited about releasing that one. And also I wanted to make this video to show you how it's inspiring me to do creative arts with the knowledge that I have now of other cultures, making films in different languages, writing music in different languages, and painting pictures from sceneries. But I hope most of all this encourages you to do it, see the world in whatever way you can, find those opportunities. If you have some extra income or an opportunity comes available to you, please take it and see how beautiful the world is. But for those also who maybe feel like they don't fit in anymore in your own home country because you feel like you relate more to other countries, I would say bring those perspectives into the conversation. Give them your shared experience. Let them hear the stories. Let them see the images and the videos you have of other places. The 2 main countries that are on my bucket list now to see are Norway and Canada. I think they look absolutely beautiful on television from images I've seen. So that would be my dream, to be able to go there. Maybe other places like South America and Africa would be fantastic one day. But I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and do give it a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing if you want to follow me on my journey growing this YouTube channel. Thank you so much.